Hey everyone, I'm Kyle with This Is Drive, and thanks for joining me today as we review a car none other than the incredible 2019 Maserati Levante GTS. As always, I'll be rating it on 6 different points, which are the powertrain, handling and suspension, styling, comfort and interior quality, tech features, and lastly, the sound system. At the very end, I'll be giving you my final verdict on this beast. Now, the GTS starts at just under $120,000, which is really not a bad price considering the Porsche Cayenne Turbo starts at $125,000, and that's before options in a Porsche. So actually more like $150,000. Whereas the Levante GTS has pretty much all of the options you would want at its base level. The other super sport SUVs in the class to consider would be the BMW X5, the Range Rover Sport SVR. Now, the Range Rover just isn't as fast unless that extra dose of fun that the Levante GTS has. Now, the BMW X5M is able to keep up with the GTS. In fact, it's 0.2 seconds faster, but it just lacks that Italian soul the GTS has. Now, I mean, when you have a turbocharged 3.8-liter Ferrari-built V8 under the hood, which makes a stunning 550 horsepower and 538 pound-feet of torque at just 2,500 RPMs, which can do a 0 to 60 time of 4 seconds flat and has a top speed of 181 miles per hour. It's hard to argue or even go up against the Levante GTS. I just love watching the RPM needle go past the 4,000 RPM mark. Hear this aggressive engine out. Huh, it's so much fun, okay? It's all, oh my god, yeah, it's too much fun. All of the power is routed through the intelligent all-wheel drive system, which is rear-wheel drive bias, but can send up to 50% of the power to the front wheels when needed. Now, having driven the Levante in inclement snowy weather, I can attest to the fact that the Q4 system worked very well. It did a seamless power transition between the front and rear wheels. Now, another tool which the Levante has under its belt is the incredible ZF 8-speed automatic, which provides buttery smooth shifts when cruising or razor sharp eye batting quick shifts when needed. Now, I really just can attest enough to just how fantastic this 8-speed really is. It makes driving the GTS all the more pleasurable. With that said, the Levante easily achieves a 5 out of 5 in the powertrain sector. Now, sure, it's great to have 550 horses under the hood, but you want a suspension that can actually complement that power and not just use it to run fast in a straight line. For starters, it has an ideal 50-50 weight balance between the front axle and the rear, plus the chassis has been tuned specifically for the extra power in the GTS. Now, the Levante was already a great handling vehicle to begin with, but they really dialed it in with this specific GTS model. Nothing really can compare. The handling is razor sharp. You actually get feedback from the wheel. You can feel the road. It's all quite fantastic. When taking the corners or piloting the curvy roads aggressively, you would think you're driving a sedan. Really, it's how well the suspension stays in tune to what's going on. And thanks to the adjustable air suspension, you can actually have a semi-comfortable ride when not racing down canyon roads. They really just did an outstanding job. If the GTS is a focused racing machine, once again getting 5 out of 5 in handling and suspension. Now, the GTS has adopted aggressive styling theme with the incredibly large front fascia. It looks as if it could eat another car. The GTS has an additional air inlet vents on the side and the bottom of the lower diffuser, which just says, hey, I'm sporting, I need a lot of air. I really do enjoy the front lights. They're very distinctive of Maserati and the Levante itself. I enjoy the shape and side profile. It looks like a wagon rather than an SUV. The rear pillar is very wide, has the Maserati logo on it to let everyone know what you are driving. The windows have a pillarless design, which really does add to its sporty nature. I just don't love the rear design though. It looks like a very standard SUV, something maybe even like a Ford Edge. Other than having Maserati spelled across the back and quad exhaust pipe sticking out, it's quite boring. Since the front fascia does look so fantastic though, and the side profile does look cool with large wheels and yellow brake calipers, plus the pillarless doors, I give it a 4 out of 5 in the styling department, but it would be nice to see some rear styling updates to make it have a little bit more of a flair design like the front end has. Now, there's no denying the Levante uses a lot of parts from the FCA bin on the interior, such as the window switches, the stop-start button, lighting controls, seat controls, among other things. And after driving the car, it just doesn't become that big of a deal. The interior is still full of nice, full-stitched leather, Maserati seats, Maserati embroidered headrest, a gear selector, which is sure to calm a lot of complaints about the past ones. Fully updated and looks brand new. It's very, very easy to use. Now, I do love this gauge display. It has the coolest needles, and the steering wheel has a large bowstring for the GTS, and the Maserati logo is front and center on the steering wheel, not to mention on the left side in the RPM gauges. Now, these metal shifters on the column have my heart. They're attached to the column, right? So as you're turning the wheel, you know exactly where those shifters are at all times. Now, the door handles are sculpted into the door panels. They look so good. Plus, they're made out of metal and feel really good. The seats don't have as many adjustments as the German competitors, but then again, they're still very comfortable. And with 550 horsepower, who really cares? I give the Levante a 3.5 out of 5 out of the comfort and the interior area. It could be better, but then again, it's not all that bad. If you're going to buy a hyper-performance SUV, things like the window switches aren't really going to be a deal breaker. Again, when it comes to tech, we see another transfer from FCA when it comes to the multimedia system, which in this case isn't a horrible thing. It's a very responsive, easy to use, and you can rearrange the stationary buttons on the bottom so you have your most used functions at your fingertips. So, in the wintertime, for instance, you can have your heated seats, your steering wheel buttons there, and the summer, your cooled seat buttons. Now, it's touch screen, but can also be controlled via dial. But no one in their right mind would use this. Just distance guided cruise control, 360-degree view camera, parking sensors all make an appearance, which is nice to have. But the parking sensors were actually oversensitive, not to mention very loud. But it is nice to see a 360-degree view camera available. Now, the Levante GTS doesn't lack any major features, but then again, it's not on the cusp of anything new like some of its competitors. Now, with that said, it gets a 3 out of 5 in the tech department. When it comes to the sound system, our tester comes with an optional Bowers & Wilkins audio system, which carries a $1,990 option price. Now, unfortunately, we're not seeing any benefits to this system. In fact, the audio is a disappointment. You get excited when you hear 1,480 watts, but the fact is this system just doesn't envelop you in the sound or doesn't even really fill the cabin. Everything sounded very monotone with hardly any variance in the bass tone or really any other tone for that matter. It gets just a 1.5 out of 5 in the sound system sector. But when you sit back, look at the vehicle, start the Ferrari V8, hear the engine roar to life, and drive down the road with the ZF 8-speed, shifting flawlessly and 550 horses under the hood, wanting to push the limits of every single speed limit sign in sight, you remember why you got the Levante GTS. It's a focused hyper-performance SUV, and that's why you buy it. In fact, I believe the Levante GTS is the single most focused on performance SUV in its class, which is why I'm giving it an overall rating of 4.5 out of 5. Its sheer driving pleasure coupled with the Maserati brand cachet, which can be matched by BMW or Land Rover, makes it an incredibly compelling choice. Well, that's all I have for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed my review of the 2019 Maserati Levante GTS.